Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. President Trump could see a major legislative victory today. House leaders say they will vote on a plan to replace Obamacare. And with a last-minute change for pre-existing conditions, it looks like they have the support they need to pass it. Heather Sells is on this story.
6 weeks after health care appeared dead in Washington, it's come to life again. What helped? Face-to-face lobbying by the president and a last-minute amendment. 2 Republican congressmen brought the measure. It will help cover pre-existing conditions by giving states $8 billion over 5 years.
With this addition that we brought to the president and sold him on in over an hour meeting in here with him, there were both yeses on the bill.
The new bill eliminates Obamacare tax penalties on those who don't buy health care. It also cuts Medicaid for low-income people and lets states impose work requirements on them. It keeps the requirement that family policies include children until age 26, and it blocks federal payments to Planned Parenthood for 1 year. Not surprisingly, every Democrat is expected to oppose the bill.
This is deadly. This is deadly. Trump Care means heart-stopping premium increases for Americans.
Major medical groups like the American Medical Association are attacking the bill, concerned about loss of coverage. House members will have to vote with a number of questions still up in the air. That's because a cost estimate from the Congressional Budget Office is not yet available, although such estimates haven't been accurate in the past. Heather Sells, CBN News.
President Trump is expected to sign an executive order to protect religious liberties. The move would do 3 important things: protect and promote religious liberty, direct the IRS to use maximum enforcement discretion, and offer regulatory relief to religious groups. It falls short of addressing religious persecution in the military and for individuals who practice their faith in all aspects of their lives, including the workplace. The order does address the Johnson Amendment, a law that prohibits pastors from endorsing candidates and delving too deep into politics from the pulpit. For more information on this bill, you can read our full article on our website, cbnnews.com. Can North Korea hit the United States with a nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile? Some experts say yes. So, should we be worried, especially after North Korea issued a warning of a mighty preemptive strike that could wipe out America's mainland? CBN News Washington, D.C. correspondent Eric Gonzalez takes a look.
Recent missile tests by North Korea have certainly raised the concerns of Americans, including our own commander-in-chief.
This is a real threat to the world, whether we want to talk about it or not. North Korea is a big world problem, and it's a problem we have to finally solve. People have put blindfolds on for decades, and now it's time to solve the problem.
In response to North Korea's latest launch, the United States sent an anti-missile system to South Korea. The system, known as THAAD, or Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, is designed to intercept and destroy short and medium-range ballistic missiles in the final stage of flight. After 5 nuclear tests in the past decade, some believe left unchecked, North Korea will likely develop missiles capable of reaching the U.S. in a decade or so.
North Korea has the capability right now to strike Japan, strike South Korea, strike Guam, I believe strike outer parts of Alaska and Hawaii.
Ricky Ellison is the chairman of the nonprofit Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance. Ellison started the organization in 2002 to boost the United States missile defense program and make it safer for all Americans.
It's about winning. It's about being on a team to win.
If Ellison's name sounds familiar, that's because he was a standout linebacker at the University of Southern California and was later drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. Although it's been more than a decade since the former San Francisco 49er claimed his 3rd Super Bowl ring, Ellison is still making a career on defense. Not on the gridiron, but with anti-ballistic missile defense. Ellison says today the U.S. has maintained it's able to protect all 50 states from North Korea.
We are assured by the NORTHCOM general who's in charge, General Laurie Robinson, of our defense of our nation, has validated that in Congress. We have had over 54 intercepts of hit-to-kill intercepts, which means a bullet on a bullet, all the way inside the atmosphere to outside the atmosphere.
Ellison points out interceptors are already in place at bases in Alaska and California. He says we have 30 of them. Top military commanders told the House Armed Services Committee this week we need more.
I believe that across the range of integrated air and missile defense, IAMD, that we can and need to do more. I believe that the interceptors that we have that defend our homeland directly in Alaska and California are critical. I have suggested that we consider putting interceptors in Hawaii that defend Hawaii directly.
Interceptors to keep the U.S. ahead of the game will take money not yet allocated in a budget.
The need, though, is real. We must. I believe we must have a budget, and I believe we must repeal sequestration.
Yeah,
otherwise, it's going to put us in a very bad place.
A very bad place, which could leave the U.S. unprotected. In Washington, D.C., Eric Rosales, CBN News.
President Trump is moving forward with plans to broker the ultimate deal, peace in the Middle East. He met with the Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas at the White House Wednesday, where he raised some concerns. Jennifer Wishon is following this story.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas arrived at the White House without the usual fanfare afforded visiting heads of state. Weakened by rivals back home, he was anxious to meet with President Trump and solidify his position as chief broker for the Palestinians.
There can be no lasting peace unless the Palestinian leaders speak in a unified voice against incitement to violate and violence and hate. There's such hatred, but hopefully there won't be such hatred for very long.
Trump also raised concerns about the Palestinian Authority sending payments to the families of convicted terrorists in Israeli jails. Abbas laid out his own demands.
Mr. President, it's about time for Israel to end its occupation of our people and of our land after 50 years.
President Trump will reportedly travel to Israel later this month, a trip that will coincide with the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War, leading some to speculate he'll use the occasion to announce he's moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
The Arab world respects a strong horse, and even if you're doing something that they may not necessarily like, if you're decisive and swift and strong about it, a lot of times they respect that.
And from Jerusalem, CBN News reports this reaction to the meeting.
What Israelis seem to be looking for is deeds, not words, in a number of areas. For example, stop writing Western-backed checks to terrorists and their families. Stop naming public squares after people who blow up Israeli women and children. Stop using Palestinian textbooks as incitement against Israelis, and stop using the UN for diplomatic war against Israel.
President Trump says he's eager to facilitate, mediate, and arbitrate a deal, but ultimately the solution must come from the Israeli and Palestinian people. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
The Department of Justice will not charge the officers involved in the shooting death of Alton Sterling. Sterling died last summer after an altercation with police in Baton Rouge, and the incident sparked protest on the streets. Now his family will be meeting with federal prosecutors.
I was trying to prepare myself for this, but I'm telling you, it's a horrible pain. It's like going back to the first day. It's like going back to the first day all over again.
Meanwhile, national attention has now turned to the shooting death of 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. Dallas police shot and killed him after leaving a party Saturday night. Reports highlight that Edwards had excellent grades and athletic talent and his upbringing as a Christian as well. Leaders are turning to Twitter saying his life still mattered, even if his story was different. The National Day of Prayer is happening today, and Chairman Ann Graham Lotz is sharing her prayer for the nation.
And so I just took Daniel chapter 9, verse 19, and the theme is for the glory of his great name, that he would hear our prayer, that he would forgive our sin, that he would heal our land.
The mission of the National Day of Prayer Task Force is to mobilize prayer in America and to encourage personal repentance and righteousness in the culture. We are heading to a congregation that aims to be different. Still ahead, we'll show you the controversial gun church. Bring up the issue of guns and the Second Amendment in a crowd, and sparks are sure to fly. And what if the church gets brought up in that same conversation? Well, that all depends on how you look at the issue. Paul Strand takes us to Jemison, Alabama, where one congregation believes God and guns can go together.
This quaint United Methodist Church in Rustic, Alabama holds a surprise out back. Now here's something you don't see every day. A church with a gun range. But according to church member Charlotte Powell, it wasn't always this way.
Our church had this huge hole in the back.
Pastor Phil Guin felt it was not only an eyesore, but also kind of dangerous.
A large gully behind the church that was filled with kudzu, vermin, and snakes.
My husband said one day to one of our church family members, said, "Too bad we can't just put a gun range back there." And that was when the idea began.
The more I thought about it, the more I liked the uniqueness of it and the idea of doing ministry in such a unique way.
Yes, reaching people through a gun range, and it's working. Private citizens, law enforcement, and even church security teams flock to train and shoot here. Not everyone loves the idea, however.
We've had naysayers that say, whoa, there's something wrong. We're a bunch of extremists. We're a bunch of negative, gun-toting, redneck-type folks.
And I know that some people will find it difficult to understand that we're mixing kind of God and guns here at this church. But they must remember our constituency and our community here. We're a very rural area. Everyone has guns.
One prominent critic is Reverend Rob Schenck, who's expressed his anti-gun stance in the documentary, The Armor of Light.
There is a deep moral and ethical question here, and that is, when is a Christian permitted to kill another human being, and under what circumstances? And any church that is going to introduce firearms into the life of that church has to address that question.
But there's no question this unique outreach is getting results.
3 weeks ago, we had 5 different churches that came in and had a gun safety class.
We already have people showing up here that probably would not darken the doors of any typical church. So we see this as an evangelistic opportunity.
Not everybody that you want to reach with the message of Christ is going to walk in the church door. But there's a chance that if you've got something unique that is important to them and that they like, that they'll come to see and perhaps have an opportunity to hear just exactly about the saving grace.
For Schenck, it appears to be about consistency on the life message.
If we are pro-life and respect the sanctity of all human life, then we probably shouldn't use training to kill as a first step in introducing the gospel.
But new shooter Deanna Van views it more from a protection perspective.
If somebody breaks into your house, what are you going to do? Hit them with a broom?
The people here are the salt of the earth kind of people that are all across this great country of ours. And they're not interested in using guns in violent ways. However, they recognize as well that there are times when weapons must be used.
The pastor's teen son, Philip, agrees, like when it comes to defending your loved ones.
I would, take a bullet for any of my family, and I would dish a couple out.
Jesus laid down his life for us, and we're here to protect our lives for him.
Schenck just doesn't see the gospel and guns going together.
We're talking about weapons that are designed to kill. And when you try to use that as a form of expressing the love of God for humanity, you might have a conflict there.
But Van points out keeping good folks from guns isn't going to solve the plague of gun violence.
A gun's don't get up and shoot somebody by itself. So I think it's the operator of the gun that causes most of the problems, not the actual gun itself.
I love my Second Amendment, and if you try to take away my guns, that's ridiculous.
Pastor Guin admits some fellow Methodists have given him guff over the gun range, but certainly not all.
One of the individuals that came here told me as a United Methodist that she wished all the United Methodist churches had a ministry like this.
The folks here realize there are probably a lot of Christians not comfortable with the idea of a church having its own gun range, but it's brought them a lot of attention here and many chances to minister. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Jemison, Alabama.
Still ahead, sitting down with Grammy Award-winning artist KJ Scriven. It's an interview you won't want to miss, so please stay tuned. Welcome back. Turning our attention now to a music man who is also the man behind the music. Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter KJ Scriven. If you don't know the name, trust me, you know his music. I sat down with him for this week's Studio 5 interview.
I'm so lost
without you. I've got no cause without you.
Keith Scriven Jr., known to most as simply KJ, is a master at crafting the perfect lyric. That songwriting talent earned a Grammy.
I'm so excited. I'm bringing this home.
For Scriven and gospel singer Ty Tribbett.
Tell me, what can I do? 'Cause I can't live without you. I can't live without you.
The song is titled, What Can I Do?
And the way that kind of happened was I put it on a project of mine, and I was actually singing the song. I was opening up for Ty at an event, and he had heard about me through the grapevine. He says, hey, I'm gonna go up in the top and I'm gonna go listen to you. And then I sang the song at the end, and I had a bunch of technical difficulties. And so I was really frustrated, and it was my monitor was really bad. And so I was in the back talking to my manager, and Ty comes like running around the back, like, dude, forget everything you're talking about right now. That song was amazing. Like, I'm still in that song. And I remember being like, what? Oh, yeah, sure, take it, it's yours.
So tell me, what can I do? Hey, 'cause I can't live without you. I can't live without you.
Now, the song I've been listening to today, in advance of sitting down with you, is Superman.
Well, I'm trying the best I can, but I can't quite be Superman. And honestly, I have tried my hand at being indestructible. So I tested my strength and saw that I'm really not that strong at all.
What's the story behind that song?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I remember being in a time in my life where there was a lot of transition. I wasn't sure where I was going next. Just in a valley of transition, didn't know where I was going to move, relocating, and trying to figure a bunch of stuff out. And at the same time, trying to be there for everybody and as well. So it was just a lot going on. And I remember being in my car. I was driving home. It was going to be a couple-hour drive, and I remember just kind of crying, and just in a frustrated way, just kind of hitting my steering wheel and saying like, "Dang, man, I'm not Mr. Superman or something. I can't, be everything for everybody, and just, I can't be Superman." And it was like, And then on that trip, on that road trip, I wrote the entire song like in my car on the way, and that's kind of how. That's kind of how it started. Like, we don't have to be strong. God is not asking us to be strong, but He's asking us to just depend on Him, and His strength is made perfect in our weakness.
You haven't put this label on yourself, but there's a label out there on you.
Okay. Alternative
Christian music. What is that?
Hey, if you tell me, then we'll both know. No, I think it's kind of because I'm in this weird this weird place of I'm not gospel enough for gospel, and not CCM enough for CCM, too Christian for mainstream, you know what I mean? And so I'm just like alternative and somewhere in the middle, and that's fine with me.
There's something you say about what music does in terms of preparing people to receive the word, especially you being a worship leader. What's the job of music in terms of planting that seed? I don't recall verbatim what it is, but it really touched me. What is that message there?
Yeah, so it's that the music softens the ground. It almost like it tills the ground, like it breaks the ground up of people's hearts, so that the seed can be planted. And then once the seed is planted, then fruit can be produced. But if we have like music, if we have a bunch of broken up ground with like no seed being planted, then we're not producing anything.
What can wash away my sins? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Singing
KJ's latest project is called Chasing the Wind. It is available now wherever music is sold. Stay with us. There's more of CBN NewsWatch coming up right after this. The 28th Capitol Bible Reading Marathon is taking place this week. So far, nearly 1,600 people have participated. For the past 28 years, the group has stayed up for 90 consecutive hours to read the Bible from start to finish. The event always kicks off the Sunday leading up to the National Day of Prayer, which is today. The organizers hope this will encourage Bible marathons all across the country. Right now, it is time for your Thursday Thankful, and today I hope you will join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, thank you for your written word of God. In it, I have found life and a daily example of how to walk out the life you have designed for me. With that word, make this a Thankful Thursday and walk in an attitude of gratitude. I promise you'll be glad you did. And that's a wrap for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about always at cbnnews.com. We love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing us at newswatch@cbn.com. You can also talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. It's Thursday. Make it a thankful one. We'll see you right back here come tomorrow.